You're listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. It would greatly benefit the show.
Oh, you want me to do Welcome to Movie Baders with the Farx brothers? I'm Kyle.
I'm Kirk.
And we are here with, and we'll ask you for your multi-hyphenate, Lisa Evanson. You're a multi-hyphenate. Which of your multi-hyphenates do you like to be identified first?
I would say comedian.
Stand-up comedian.
Well,
or just comedian?
I've started just doing comedian because I do less stand-up but more comedic-based work these days.
Let's start there. What does that mean?
My focus is more on sketch comedy now and short films and any acting I can get my hands on and writing.
What made you want to change?
I was burnt out from stand-up. I get asked this a lot because it was kind of like at the peak of like hitting certain milestones, winning Acme's comedy competition and like getting asked to go on the road, but I was burnt out due to a few different layers and I really wanted to travel and do the digital nomad thing. And so like the last time I performed stand-up, boom, the next day I think I was on the road doing my first like 3-month nomad stint, if you will. And it was that I was doing more acting and I was like, oh, I like being on set way better than stand-up.
So first, what's the digital nomad thing? I'm not sure I'm familiar.
You're good. It's like when you remote work. So my first stint was Colorado, Utah, Arizona, California. And so you're working the whole time. I don't even think I took a single day off. So you're working to whatever your employer mandates, which for me was, central time hours. And then when you shut the laptop, you're making the most of whatever city you're in, 5 to 10. And we're moving cities every week, more or less.
You're in like a pod or a pack, or what did you call yourselves?
I was with my friend Seth.
Hi, Seth.
Hey Seth. He was already kind of doing the digital nomad thing, and I was telling him I wanted to do it, but I didn't know he was already doing. He's like, that's what I'm doing, dummy. Do you want to join forces? So for safety purposes, it was like, not something I was comfortable doing on my own. So it was the perfect mix blend, whatever, camaraderie of two people. And now we're roommates, now that we're back in the cities, 3 years later. But that trip inspired then 3 months in LA, and then I've done 2 months in Spain and 1 month in Portugal, and then like other little trips here and there, back and forth, different places.
Did you work central hours when you were in Spain?
Yeah, so it was in Spain and working more or less 4 p.m. to midnight, but sometimes I would start at 3 p.m. so I could take like a long dinner, or like I might do like a salsa or bachata class, or just some sort of mixer for other digital nomads. Like you hear that term a lot more, I feel like, in Europe, and I'm sure other areas and countries, but like at least as it relates to Western Europe, it's very, very popular. So there's a huge digital nomad culture, although locals do not necessarily love it. There's been a lot of friction between local citizens, communities versus these digital nomads.
Is it just tourists coming in, and what's happening there?
They spike the cost of living. And they crowd, the spaces, right? Places lose their charm, becomes inaccessible for people who have lived there their whole lives. They have to move farther and farther from the city centers. Cost of living goes up and up.
That's not because of digital nomads. That's because of people with more money coming in and driving prices up, right?
Which is a bunch of digital nomads. It's tourists, too.
Oh, like laptop people who have white-collar jobs that pay them significantly more than the median income of the locale you're in.
Yes, and because most of these digital nomads are coming from, point being, it inflates a lot of the cost of living, and then there's the element of like all these digital nomad houses and communities that get purchased by people who can afford it, because then they're charging an arm and a leg to us digital nomads because they know we can afford it. And now that apartment that used to be where a bunch of locals lived and was completely reasonable and within their means, well, now that they know the value can be 7 times that amount, it's never going to go back.
Wait, you've seen that 7 times in inflated rate? Oh, so 700%. Oh, wow.
I was talking to the place I stayed in, Barcelona.
You don't say Barcelona?
Barcelona. There were 7 of us digital nomads, each paying, I think it was the equivalent of like $1,400. And 7 of us, whereas a family used to live there and they were paying less than that. So if you're a landlord, you're probably going to take the 10 grand or whatever it was a month from your digital nomads, then renting it out to one family who's paying a fraction of that. So a lot of these cities have started to put stipulations in place for zoning requirements and limits on digital nomads. Some, I think Barcelona is out. It's like outlying digital nomad flats entirely, starting like 2026 or 2028. Don't quote me on all this, but it's like a big deal.
This is a journalism show. We believe we're doing
I would have never
right
thought it'd be an issue to be traveling that much and just going to these towns and suddenly there's inflation. That's
well, a bunch of 30-year-olds making, let's say, a 6-figure income, give or take
Sure,
$25,000 American. That's like they can use the same size bedroom that my 4-year-old uses and does not produce and generate any income.
Yeah.
Where the hell does my daughter get off? And if I lived in Barcelona and with my children and wife, who would also be generating income, but my children would not be, I'd need at least one other bedroom to put them in. It's not worth it.
No.
Of course not. And school will be hell for the kids. You're traveling all the time, you go to a new school every time.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know the question I'm asking, it's going to sound bad. I don't think you come from a privileged background based on the research I did on you. You're from Brooklyn Center?
Yeah, Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park. My parents divorced when I was 9. My mom lived on the border, and she's very adamant that she was on the Park side. She wants people to know she was on the Park side. And my dad was in Brooklyn Center. Most of our daily living was like Brooklyn Center, you know, where we ran errands, where we went to church, community center, friends, whatever. And then when I went to middle school and high school, that was in Brooklyn Park on the border with Champlin Park High School. Oh my God.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great for the audio podcast.
Nick Farx used to do that on the show more, and I was just lamenting. Who was I? Was I lamenting it to Mrs. Farx or you?
Yeah,
recently?
I
it
think
was
so.
you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Farx comes on the show sometimes. She
Mrs. Farts?
Farx.
Farx.
But
Yeah.
now it's because we're the Farx brothers, Kirk and
Okay,
Kyle.
okay.
This is Movie Baiters with the Farx brothers, and we call her Mrs. Farx. That's not actually our last name.
Nope.
It's a stage name.
Oh.
Have you ever considered a stage name as, you know, a stand-up comedian?
That's like
Now comedian.
it's like a trigger question because I went through this whole thing where my kind of mentor of sorts was like, you should do a stage name for safety purposes, but make it similar. So we landed on Lisa Evans, but then that was too confusing. I still remember when I went on the Garage Logic podcast after winning Acme, and they were like, welcome to the show, Lisa Evanson. And I was like, no, I'm actually going by Lisa Evans now, blah, blah, blah. And I like rattled something off, and we're live on air, and they're like, okay, so anyways. And I just like ruined the rhythm. I still have never listened back on it because I'm too embarrassed. But then it was like, there's so many more Lisa Evans than there are Evansons. So long story short, I just went back to Lisa Evanson.
And you were worried people were going to ask you if you were related to Chris Evans, you think?
Oh, that would be such a shame. That would be such a burden.
Yeah.
No, I think at the time there was too many. I just realized how this is going to sound. There were too many articles of press about me with my real name, and I didn't want them to go to waste. No, but it was like, let's ride the wave of my digital footprint that I already have. It seems silly. So.
Have you been able to monetize that? I'm not asking how much, I'm just asking if it's of value since you mentioned the digital footprint.
No, more just like my track record, like as I put myself out there, I wanted, if someone's going to Google my name, to I mean, it's not always easy to get good press. So the fact that I had already received some using my real name, it seemed like it would be a waste to not capitalize on that. So it's not like I have brand equity in the literal brand equity of monetary amounts. No.
You haven't monetized your social medias, for example, yet for sponsorships or something?
Yeah, because I was trying to understand what you were asking.
That's what I'm trying to.
Oh, okay.
We have someone else on the pod the week we're recording this that we worked with when this person was a child, and now they're like 20 and they have 1 million followers on Instagram.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Are they local?
Sort
They're
of.
in Austin now, I think, right?
They're Austin
Yeah.
and Minneapolis.
Cool. Actually, funny you should ask, just today, I got my first brand sponsorship offer, you know, where, hey, if you make these 3 videos that I get to conceptualize in exchange, we will pay you a number with a comma, which is
Wow.
exciting. That's me using discretion, but I technically got my first influencer gig, what was that, like 2 months ago when I was doing the Lake Street Council work through Cool Story. I consider that different, right? Because it was more about using them benefiting from my following, if you will, of getting those videos published and being the host of them, as opposed to like the brand sponsorship being more like traditional, like exchange of like product placement, as opposed to, I don't know, they're different to me. But
what was that organization like? Why were they interested in collaborating with you in this?
Lake Street Council?
Yeah, Lake Street Council, yes.
Yeah, so they put out an opportunity really to the community at large, the Twin Cities, of saying anyone who has a great idea for making content, showcasing, it was 3 different silos. It was like arts and culture and entertainment as one, and then restaurants, you know, food and dining as a separate, and then safety as a third. And so anyone could pitch, and I was like part-time contracting with Cool Story when we pitched, and so I had a hand in like majority of the ideas that got pitched. Excuse me, sorry, this sparkling water is so bubbly. And then when I had kind of moved past that contract, the owner of Cool Story reached out and was like, hey, your ideas that like were pitched won, so do you want to be involved? And then I had pitched Tony Q as like the main influencer. He's the guy who does the state fair and has like a bajillion followers, and every one of his videos gets 1 million views. Millions.
Are you talking about the chef, Tony Q? Sorry, I'm not familiar.
Is he a wait, yeah, he's a chef. Yeah.
This is the person you pitched ideas about?
Yeah, I pitched through Cool Story to Lake Street Council that Tony Q should be like the main influencer and basically treat, you know, a walk down Lake Street like he did a walk down the state fair, just because he has so much, like I said, brand equity in that space. But we weren't able to get a hold of him, and I don't know if our budget of this grant money would have been in his budget, but there was like a couple more we reached out to and just didn't hear back. And then Alex, the owner of Cool Story, was like, you know, I thought about it, and kind of right under my nose, like, would you want to be our influencer? You know how to host and MC and be on camera. And then I think right around that time, he wound up hearing back from one of the other influencers, Fametta. And so she, myself, and then Amelie, who's full-time with Cool Story and an absolute gem. Us 3 then did it together, but he had me play more of the main host role. And so that was cool. It was like a flat fee of, it was actually the same amount I got for this brand sponsorship. And then I got some hourly rate in addition to doing like project management, account management, and like producing leading up to it.
Your background is in startups. Is this like what you're doing for your 9 to 5, or does this count as like your separate? I define my work by my W-2 because I work in tech sales, and then my 1099, which is in the entertainment space.
So, drumroll, I'm fully freelance as of 6 months ago.
Congratulations.
Not by choice, but I will still accept the congratulations. But it felt like being pushed over a cliff more than like a strategic, like, oh, I'm finally going to make this leap now. Technically, I've been fully freelance I was fully freelance for like 9 months prior, but I had a contract that was 9 to 5, or rather 9 to 9. It was very demanding. It was steady. It was like having a normal job. And then they pulled the plug on that program, so my team all got let go.
Damn.
Yeah, and because you're freelance, there's no severance, you're not eligible for unemployment, you know, you get no favors when that happens. So we've just been grinding, it was funny though, like when it happened, I told my closest friends, maybe 5 of them, and my closest inner circle are all creatives. And so with the snap of a finger, I already had work lined up, but just by telling my friends. One of those was Alex, the owner of Cool Story. And he's like, well, let's meet for coffee, you know? And we met for coffee, and within 30 minutes, he called me back. He goes, I have my first project for you, because he'd had like a call right after he and I left. So yeah, so that was my first time getting to actually do conceptualization, like concepting creative ideas and getting paid for it, and like writing the premise out, writing dialogue and copy examples. It was like a dream come true, because working in advertising, I always had a boss who was very much like, do not bleed into the creative lane. Like, they went to school for that. It will set a bad precedent. Because I'd been approached by copywriters and creatives to be like, hey, do you want to be in the room as we're pitching ideas? We know you do stand-up. We like your stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then my boss caught wind of that, and very much like, I don't even think she believed me that I got approached. I think she thought I was meddling. And I was like, no, I swear to God.
What was your corporate title at that point?
Account supervisor.
Oh, you were in sales.
No, so I worked in advertising agencies. So that is the nomenclature for sales, but in the advertising world, it's like account management, like the way you work up is like account coordinator, account manager, senior account manager, account supervisor, account director, and then like VP or whatever comes after that. So that was like a dream come true of finally getting to like dip into the creative territory within a more corporate realm and getting paid for it.
Cool story with Alex after the setback from 6 months ago.
And I really was just helping Alex before, during, and after his paternity leave.
Oh.
So
Congratulations to Alex if you're hearing this.
yeah, congrats, Alex. So
We're pro-natalists on this show. Are you going pro-natalist lately?
No, I'm still
God damn it.
pro-choice.
The two can exist with
They
overlap.
can, yeah, they can.
Okay, thank you. It's a
glad
debate
you guys
show.
could settle that.
Yeah, right.
Just wait till we get into the actual debate, which people have heard before this interview.
Oh boy. No, ever since then it has been very much a mosaic of trying to piece together opportunities that both pay the bills and satisfy this new chapter in what I'm trying to achieve, which is breaking away from that corporate client.
What did you go to school for?
I did communications and business management at U of M.
And your goal was to go into the advertising industry?
No, actually, I had no intention of it. I didn't know anything about it in college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I had a sales internship and
Wait, what's a sales internship?
it's an internship where it's commission only.
Oh,
So
I see.
you get out of it what you put into it. I think this is where that coming from a lower income background really helped me with sales. Is
A
like
non-privileged background, just to count the early part of the...
non-privileged, yes. I have this memory burnt into my brain of I have my two friends. I won't say their names, but we would all carpool a lot. Similar situations, not maybe having the best means to get to and from practice. So there was a lot of carpooling.
Is this like high school we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember one of them being like, "Hey Lisa, you know how we both have the same grades?" "Yeah." "And you both, how we have the same like income or whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I think there was a third thing. She goes, "But because we're black, we get a $40,000 scholarship to the U of M and you don't." And the way she said it was hilarious. Like I just remember us cackle laughing so hard. But I feel like that is very emblematic of kind of like growing up and like going into stand-up. One of the number one misconceptions people like made fun of me for is they thought I was some like Edina cake eater. And I could never understand like why I gave off that impression or why people assumed that.
I can make an estimation.
What is a Edina cake eater?
Have
What
you
is
not
that?
seen Mighty Ducks?
No.
Where are you? Bro, sorry, we were separated at birth and I was raised by adopted parents. He was with
The West Coast.
the West Coast.
California.
I saw all three Mighty Ducks and watched the first season of the TV show with my wife.
Beautiful.
The reason that people think that
Sorry.
you're a Edina cake eater if you pursue a career in the arts, and we see this in society, in like not just here but in the macro sense, is that the people who can afford to make it are the people who can have their cake and eat it too, because they're able to continue to pay for an apartment close enough to where you can get to all the country comedy clubs, because potentially you might have access to greater forms of wealth or income that would make that sort of thing possible. I went to school, got a white-collar job, and that made certain things easier for me post-college.
I think that mentality of like, I have to make this work is what made me good at sales, but also being, a people person and loving the gamification of winning over people. I don't mean that in a gross or manipulative way. I just am fascinated by the human psyche and like how to make people like you. Again, not in a vindictive way, but like how to show them a certain joy in the human collective, because so many people are cynical and they hate people, whatever it is. So sales I loved. I got to work with peers. It paid my way through college. I think I made $200,000 in sales. So the commission off of that paid my way through college.
Wow.
Thanks. So I thought I would stay in sales. And then I worked in startups where you're wearing a bunch of different hats, but that was a little too chaotic, long story short.
So you mentioned coming from a different socioeconomic background. I enjoyed the story about the neighbor twins. And then it's clear from other interviews and what what's in this interview that you've worked at startups, and you mentioned wearing many hats. Could it be there's a connection between coming from a, I want to say differently abled socioeconomic background that you have to learn to wear ups? Coming from a lower socioeconomic background, you have to learn to wear a lot of hats, and that's why you found that kind of work when you were, that is a theory I had back when I was listening to podcasts of you to get ready for this interview.
Oh, nice.
And it just I remembered that now in this conversation. I hope you're not, offended by.
No, I love that connection. I can accept that more openly, especially just because I finally started going to therapy just a couple months ago. And, it's no shocker that everything traces back to childhood, but there's a lot of connections I never fathomed signifying why I operate the way I do. Although you saying that, I should bring this up to my therapist, but I wouldn't be surprised if she said I seek chaos in a work setting because, we seek what is familiar. So if your childhood felt chaotic, that's what's familiar and ironically makes you feel safe.
May I ask you to gild the lily then? And I don't actually know where that idiom comes from.
I was impressed.
Yeah. Wow. These are your big words, right?
What is an example?
Big word for Elmo.
Do you remember when Elmo turned into a Nazi a little while?
Yeah,
that wasn't that long ago.
Not to date the bait, but because this will come out in weeks after that was a story, but for one day, Elmo's a Nazi now, which kind of ties into the Grand Budapest Hotel since it's about fascism. Could you give an example of how you've gamified someone into liking you in your newfound freelance work that has had a positive impact on your freelance work?
When I've referenced that gamification, I think it more tied back to old Lisa in sales. Because now I don't know that I would use that same terminology. Like all of my work now, and again, it's only a small sample size of 6 months, right? Honestly, it's all just through references. I'm not even having to, I don't mean this in a pompous way, I'm not having to work for any of my referrals. They're just coming, man. It's working out how it's supposed to. I'm trying to think. It all stems from just having my closest friends be in the space. And so, and it also, I should mention, so much of what I'm doing right now is unpaid. It's like sowing seeds for, fingers crossed, a future harvest, right, and slowly starting to see that. So I just booked my first TV pilot. I just found out 2 days ago. And so, not that that's going to be a massive paycheck, but I'm going to get paid to show up on set and act. And that is the first of hopefully many. Just getting that first brand sponsorship is hopefully the first of many. Getting that first influencer gig, hopefully the first of many. I just applied to an on-air hosting temporary job. Hopefully, you get that. But so much of what I'm doing, because consulting, if you will. I'm gonna put that in air quotes because everyone's like, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. And it's been so different project to project. But a lot of the consulting I've been doing has been pro bono or trade for trade, in hopes of it paying off in the future. So for example, I helped a friend who just launched his videography business with his buddy and was consulting on tone, feel, copy, and then was talent in the social media ads and might have a say in, I don't know how they come together, but doing that for quote unquote free in exchange, or that's a trade for trade, right? So then in exchange, they're going to film this YouTube channel I'm working on with this other guy. It's a comedy cooking show. So
what made it interesting to get you on the show wasn't just that Chelsea Grant recommended you a while ago, is that you directed a Best of Z-Fest this year, correct?
Yeah. Wait, was it a best?
Yeah, it was in that, because I hadn't seen it till the Best of screening. And then I saw director Lisa Evanson.
Typically when I show up on set, I've only been in front of the camera as talent. Learning terminology, roles and responsibilities was a learning curve in itself.
How did you get into being the director of this thing? Did Aaron write it and then come to you? Greg, who was the DP, has been on our show earlier. Oh, yeah, I love that Greg's been on your show. He was the teacher. He was my Yoda for teaching me the way.
So it was your first time directing?
Yes. So how it came to be was that I reached out to my friend Holly right after the layoff and was like, hey, I guess I've got some free time now. I know it's kind of Z-Fest season. Do you have any, I'm trying not to giggle at this character. We're seeing the prison from Grand Budapest Hotel, which is playing in the background here in the Mink Ave. I asked her if she knew of any teams that needed help. She referred me to Jared Crooks, who I already knew and I'm friends with, but he had just cast the film and was about to shoot the next weekend. And then the other referral was to Anthony and Aaron's team. Anthony Hunky. Being producer, and Aaron the writer. And so I didn't know anyone, like zero wherewithal of any of these people, which is probably
Holly, this person that connected you?
Holly Burr.
Oh, is that Holly Burr?
Yeah.
We know Holly.
So funny thing about Holly is that, and it almost feels like surreal to say this because she's so deeply ingrained in the scene now. She and I were in acting class together, in Bill Cooper's class. And another burp coming. There it is.
That's a Bill burp.
This is all your fault for the pomegranate dragon fruit sparkling water. So
Bill Cooper.
Harvey Keitel, the scene right now, the way he reacts to the compliment on his artwork is one of my favorite reactions in the whole film.
Because he likes it?
It's like, his reaction is like he's never been complimented in his life before.
Oh, man.
He's a man that ended up in prison, and he wouldn't have been complimented for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, look at him, and it's fucking Harvey Keitel. I grew up watching Reservoir Dogs and all the Tarantino films with my dad.
Because you have 2 older brothers.
Yes.
So your first time directing was with a baby?
Yeah, she was probably the best actress I've ever gotten to work with.
Other than
No, that's
yourself.
a terrible way. That sounds like I'm implying. No, I just
Greg
meant...
said the baby was good, and it didn't present a lot of issues other than having to take a nap on set.
Yeah, no, that's why I said what I said, because for being a baby, it was so easy to work with. Oh my God.
This is great. I'm excited for this one to come out.
These burps are
Don't edit these out, please.
unconsensual. My body is not permitting. Okay.
Oh.
You know, you ever have a burp come out and you're like, I didn't see that coming. I call those unconsensual burps.
Since the Farx brothers provided the bubbly beverage you have, I thought you were implying that we had not gotten your consent for you to have burps from. And I just want to make it explicitly clear.
No, this is between me, myself, and I. Oh my God, it's the scene where he throws the cat out the window. Freaking iconic.
What? Okay, you're in a Fringe show now. Let's end by talking. End your interview by talking about like you don't enjoy stand up as much as being on set. How about being on stage versus set?
Great question. So, having just come from rehearsal as we're preparing for a musical, I only really have 2 examples, which is the current musical we're rehearsing for, and then the one I did in 2019, which was the Scranton Strangler, an Office musical. It was a best in show. We sold out every show. We got, the encore performances, some amazing write-ups. It was a dream come true.
Who were you?
I played, can you guess?
The Strangler.
No. I guess.
Pam?
No. I played Angela.
Oh.
But you're, I'm dumb because of the hair, but.
Oh, yeah, because
you're
you're
a brunette.
blonde.
I wore a ratty wig. Yeah.
Oh.
It got worse and worse each episode. It when it was sliding off, and
Were
could
you
see
cheating
my
with Dwight, or were you with Dwight? I apologize. I didn't see it in 2019.
No, I forgive you. All is forgiven. No, I think, God, there's so many references jam-packed into that hour-long show that I think...
Wow, was it an hour long?
Yeah.
You don't know Fringe, do you, my brother?
Well, I've done one before, but that was only like 30 minutes or maybe even less.
Maybe some are 30. You're allowed 60, but our director really tries to pace between 48 and 53 just because it helps you to... It just feels tighter, and it's nice to have the buffer.
Sell the show. What's it called? Who's your director?
So this one is called The Lasso Way, a musical.
Oh, it's a Ted Lasso.
Yep.
Okay.
And so it takes place post Ted Lasso's death.
Whoa,
and
that's morbid.
It is Henry Lasso all grown up. And without giving too much away, he is forced into having to direct a show. So it's a show within a show. Play within a play, if you will. Or rather, a musical within a musical.
Is he having to direct a show for soccer?
I don't want to give it too... I don't want to give too much away, but...
What's your director's name?
Kyle DeGoey.
Kyle DeGoey.
And Travis Carpenter. So they're co-creators.
Okay.
And both direct. Travis is the writer. Kyle has created all the music in tandem with his sister, Lindsay. And... I mean, they're brilliant. They're just absolutely brilliant. Kyle actually got into stand-up, and he said I'm the reason he got into stand-up.
Oh, wow.
Which ties back to Holly. I never finished this thread. Holly and I were in acting class Bill was making our rounds of like what we were working on from the past week. I mentioned taking a crack at writing my first short film. And I didn't know this at the time, but Holly thought to herself, if Lisa can do that, I can do that. And so that's how Holly got into film. And now she touches every film that like friggin' happens in this city.
She touched one of ours once, consensually.
Consensually.
She got nominated for an award for it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And we nominated her. It was a prop award.
Oh, yeah. No, she is just...
Fantastic.
Is she not sunshine encapsulated in human form and flesh?
Yeah,
like,
she's real jolly, happy, high energy.
I adore her. And also it's just refreshing having a fellow creative who like we can talk openly about our faith. You know, that's kind of hard to find in this scene. And that's
Christians?
Yep. That's what's a little bond that we have. It's just nice being able to
We've had other
share
Christians on the podcast. I am an out-of-the-closet Christian. My
Sure.
brother's a shamanist.
Atheist, yeah.
Well, but shamanism believes in like a...
There is a God, quote unquote. Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean so much the God. It's just there's a realm beyond the...
Yeah, like there's a heaven or some place we go in the afterlife. Yeah.
I don't think you're an atheist then.
Yeah.
See, this is...
I'm here and there.
Are you a Protestant or a Catholic?
That was the most hesitant, yeah. Sorry, I just love that you asked that as I'm looking at these severed fingers on the screen.
We'll have already debated in what people will have heard whether or not Wes Anderson is violent. Please save your opinion for
okay.
Protestant or Catholic.
Protestant.
I'm Protestant too.
Except saying that, I'm like, I don't have ties to any label. It's like...
Non-denominational Christian.
Non-denominational,
yes.
right? I was raised Catholic.
Oh, you went from Catholic to Protestant.
Yeah,
my
in fact,
mother did that. Or no, my father did that and my wife did that.
I'm just going to commit to non-denominational. The church I've gone to for most of my adult life is AG, Assemblies of God.
Oh, what, tongues?
Yeah.
What do you think about the tongues, if you don't mind me asking?
So I had no familiarity whatsoever in the Catholic Church. Like, you don't hear about that. You know nothing. It is not on your radar.
Baptists make fun of them, in my experience.
Yes. It was very bizarre the first time I heard someone speaking in them. And then we had a baptism of the Holy Spirit at my church. And I was actually just talking about this in Bible study the other week, how I said yes to going. And I think I came with such an open mind and honestly just lack of information, but like such an open heart. It was at a point in my life where I can say this even with more certainty in hindsight. I was so like broken and hurting and searching that I was so open to just healing and God and everything. And so I approached the baptism of the Holy Spirit like session that they kind of held, where like you were breaking off into like small groups and people praying over you, and that like I had quite the experience where as I was being prayed over, I've never felt anything like this in my life. It was like a warmth in my like abdomen that I could like feel go upwards, and it was like I could feel the muscles twitching
in your throat. You're motioning to your throat.
Yes, like the muscle, like it felt like every muscle was like tied to my tongue, and it was like twitching, and it was just this like, it felt like an orb of light moving up and out of my mouth. And I started speaking, and one at the time was like, I think I'm speaking in tongues. And
was there an interpreter there to
No, and that's where I wrestle with it, because the Bible says you shouldn't speak in tongues unless there's an interpreter. Because
Did I prove my bona fides by asking though?
Did you what?
Prove my bona fides. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Bona fide?
Bona fides. I like saying bona fides to be silly.
Bona fide? Kind of like a bone to pick?
No, more that did I prove my knowledge of the Bible by asking the question?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You sure did.
Obviously, my idioms are fucked up, but...
But what's so fascinating is I've never met or heard about someone being an interpreter. Because that's when if it's in the presence of someone else, you should have an interpreter, but when you're alone. Well, and what's wild is like, you couldn't shut me up after that. Like I shouldn't, I'm almost like ashamed that I hesitate to be like, I was speaking in tongues. Because at the time it was so foreign to me. I think it's easy to have this voice in your head of like, it was a placebo. But then you say that, and that sounds even sillier when you look back on what was happening, of like this instrument of...
As
like,
you review your memory of the experience you had.
Yeah, where it was, I know it wasn't a placebo effect. Like I know, and even now, and I've heard this is really common, is like when you get comfortable, or dare I say maybe a little lazy in your faith. You know, for me, the digital nomad thing meant you just kind of naturally step away from church. Sundays were often our travel days. My friend isn't, religious, and so I didn't feel comfortable being like, can we put on a sermon while we drive? You know, it kind of falls by the wayside, even though I've still only felt as connected as ever in my faith. Sorry, there's another bloody scene, which is just funny. I can't wait to circle back on. But I think what I experience is common is that as time goes on, you stop kind of working in that gift. But now as I've been kind of getting reinvigorated back in my faith, and now that I'm not planning on leaving Minnesota again, I'm trying to draw roots and community here, which has meant finding a Bible study, getting back involved in church, and just having that like hunger again, to the point where even just like praying more fervently, it's like I can feel things kind of twitching and quivering again. You know, like I'm like a language that you're trying to almost resurface again. And it's been talked about the past few weeks in our Bible study, and it's fascinating how it's still kind of a divisive implies that more negativity, but I'll use divisive in terms of like people having different beliefs or interpretations of what the Bible says about it. And the most sensitive topic, from my understanding, is people who have prayed to speak in tongues their whole lives and still aren't able to. What does that mean? But I think that's because there's like, from my understanding, almost a deeply rooted evangelical belief that like, oh, if you're really a good believer, you'll be able to speak in tongues. And that's why I felt even guiltier about my experience, because I just walk in, you know, a week of going to this church, maybe not a week, but like a month or two, and then am able to do that. And my roommate at the time, who her whole life had been praying for that to happen and hadn't had it happen, it was almost, it didn't cause conflict between us, but you can tell it almost like furthered her pain a little. I mean, you know, her being pretty open about like genuinely being curious. Why is it that I can show up with no familiarity and not having grown up in a charismatic church and I'm able to speak in tongues instantly, whereas she's grown up her whole life believing for, hoping for, praying for the gift of speaking in tongues and still hasn't received it.
What part of the Bible are you covering in your Bible study that has led to these topics you've just mentioned?
Well, there's a few different books of the Bible that cover it. Right now we're reading Acts, and there's a lot of references to, I believe it's 1 Corinthians.
Because Acts comes right after Romans, am I correct, in the New Testament? After the four like names, it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Then it's Acts Roman or Roman Acts?
I should know this, and I think it's because I'm on the spot. I'm like, I can't even
No,
confirm.
that's fine. But at least we know like what we're talking about post-Jesus, you know, coming back in the Bible kind of stuff. Okay, so you're studying the New Testament, understood.
Yep.
To be quite honest, a lot of that is pretty foreign to me. But for example, have talked to other people in the upper Midwest film community who are out of the closet Christians, better term for it.
I love that.
And one of them told me about a demonic experience this person experienced, and in their telling to me, it was like, I thought this was BS, you know, like that no one would ever, you know. So did you ever listen to Adventures in Odyssey growing up?
No.
Did you know anything about Focus on the Family, which I don't really like? I think they're kind of I won't go into why, but it's an organization lots of Protestant Christians are familiar with.
Yeah, no, I'm not very, I mean, I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar with it.
How does your faith restrict your film work? We had a colleague once who was like, I won't do anything blasphemous. And I, determined or do you select projects, or do you seek to, I mean, as all Christians do, seek to have God's love shine through you while you're working your film, obviously. How would you define that in the film work?
I think it's easier to suss out what feels blasphemous than what feels
righteous.
Right, yeah. That's a good way of saying it. This one is a very glaringly obvious example, but I had a friend who wrote a sketch and they're like, hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you want to star in it with me, I think it was going to be like a 5-minute sketch, and it's literally all about a girl asking a guy if she can fuck him in the ass.
Oh, wow.
And you're like,
straightforward.
And I just was honest. And it's funny how...
What does that have to do with Christianity?
It's...
Blasphemy. Go on.
It's more the crassness of it. It's,
but that's not blasphemy, Kirk. That's,
I'm not... sorry.
It could go into sodomy, potentially.
Let me rephrase. That in itself... actually, you could argue... Someone could argue that's blasphemous because it goes against, like, the idea of purity and all that before sex. I'm not looking at it from that angle. It was more like, as a Christian, it's best to set an example of like innocence. Innocence is lost, right, as children. And like children at younger and younger ages are having their innocence robbed of them because of the media and because of twisted morals. I guess to put a bow on that, it's more like anyone can talk about crude things and sadistic, hedonistic things. And when so many others are doing that, like, there's no need for me to do that. I don't need to make a comedy sketch about ass fucking. And so when I think of like blasphemy as well, there is something to be said about purity, not just of the body, but of the mind. It's actually why I don't like horror. Because it's hard to justify watching a piece of art that is bloody and gory, and it's not doing anything beneficial for me personally. I know a ton of people in this scene who love horror. They love it. And I want to ask more of them, like, why? Because I'm genuinely fascinated. But for me, it's never done.
You?
Yes.
It makes the horrors of reality less so because it's a hyperbolic example of something else. At least I'm speaking just for me.
Yeah.
Because I watch a lot of horror. I consider myself a Christian. I don't think I'm being ungodly when I watch even demonic horror movies because I've watched The Exorcist.
Yeah.
My mom has watched The Exorcist, and she's
Yeah.
a 70-year-old Protestant church lady who has been baptized Lutheran, now just straight Protestant.
Yeah.
And for me, the evil is already out there. And if I'm not able, and this might be more of a personality thing, if I'm not able to look at it and go, I laugh at you, It's like sci-fi. It's a metaphor for greater ills in society. Vampires proliferated while AIDS was going on in the 80s. They had a resurgence. And you can tie these things to different cultural mores.
I like how you come from it from like an empowering angle. It's empowering to look at it and almost scoff at it and say, you don't scare me.
Or it makes my the things that bother me in my life are dumb. It makes them smaller because I watched a bunch of zombies who are not zombies. They're rage virus people in 28 years later attack a isolated town that's commenting possibly on Brexit. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Perhaps. No, I love hearing that point of view because I just haven't been able to have enough in-depth conversation. It's more like in passing, when I was at an audition the other day and someone was talking about, I love horror, and there wasn't time to like inquire further. So I mean it in earnest when I say I don't understand. I don't mean it in like a derogatory way. It's more like for me personally, I only ever feel darker and heavier, and these things kind of live rent-free in my brain. Oh, real quick, this scene, I believe they said they used cardboard.
Definitely.
I think the train is cardboard, they said.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
He loves his trains. I'm going to throw it to you so that we can get further into this, which people have already heard by this point.
The actual debate.
Thank you for sharing all of that, though. I so seldom watch film or TV that when I sit down and I take in that treat, that is so rare for me because of this need to always be productive and I can't ever freaking relax. I want to watch something that is not uplifting in like a trite or almost like empty, jovial way, like truly edifying or enriching, but also at the same time, I almost struggle watching something I know is purely fiction. I like watching things that I know are rooted in like real stories and history because it feels like I am learning as opposed to, this might sound weird, but like, I don't know, some random person came up with this.
You sound like the father-in-law-to-be of Thomas Hayden Church's character in Sideways. Are you familiar with that reference? Never mind if you are not.
No.
Okay, that's fine.
I've
watched
seen
that
that
movie
movie.
that has aggressive sex scene with my mother, and she laughed her butt off.
And maybe that is a great segue into then why the heck do I enjoy Wes Anderson?
I think that's...
I wish you only grace, peace, and wisdom of throwing to my brother for the final question.
Well, that
of
was
this segment.
a great discussion on religion. That was interesting. I didn't expect that turn, but... Well,
Remember stage versus screen?
Yeah. Well, to wrap things up, Lisa, who would you recommend we ask to be on the podcast?
My friend Jay Ness, who, unless Chelsea already referred him.
She did, and he just did. That's totally fine. And while you're thinking of another person, Jay, we want to have you on the show, but you just did one of the other local shows, so it probably would be spaced out.
It's funny how the brain works is that when I had the thought to say his name, my brain wasn't thinking that Chelsea connected me. It wasn't until I was saying it. Then I was like, oh, duh. And then noticed the circle. But that just goes to show that Chelsea just knows the most wonderful people on the planet. Okay, so I would say Spencer Knott and Kevin Noonan, either together or separately. They're who I make a lot of the sketch comedy stuff with.
I love that. We should get Spencer on the show, and this is a good reason to send him this and go, hey, you bastard, get on the show. I know him that well.
And also, okay, good. And then also Sam and Ben Brodsky because of just the professional caliber videographers that they are.
Wait, is Sam a comedian?
No, so they're my best friends. I met them through Spencer and Kevin. They own Dual Studios, and
Okay.
they have a lot of like creator meetups and parties, and they're just wicked talented. They were really at the forefront of FPV drone piloting in the country. They've traveled all over the world for their work, and they're my favorite dudes.
Well, I think that's a great place to end it. Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kirk and Kyle.
Bye-bye.
Woohoo!
Thank you for listening. For more JK Productions, find us on Instagram at JK Productions Team and on Facebook, JK Productions MN. Join us next time for another bait.